Welcome back to the Empower Her podcast, where we help women move from pain to freedom in relationships. Today, we are talking all things manifestation, relationships, and mindset with Georgie Stevenson. Georgie Stevenson is a mama to Ivy Sunday, a wife to Tim, owner of Naked Harvest Supplements and the Rise and Conquer brand, and of course, the host of Rise and Conquer podcast. A woman of many passions, but also a woman who shows us you can literally do it all, and there is no rules that say you have to fit it into a certain criteria box. There we go. That's amazing. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to have you. So excited. Let's get straight into it. So super keen to start talking all things manifestation. So what's like your perspective on manifestation, just to get started?
Yeah, I guess for me, manifestation really came into my life because I have a background of, during childhood, I never felt that special. I never really felt like I knew myself, and I just felt like I was kind of like walking through life, a bit of a sheep, just following other people. Yeah. And then I turned about 15, 16, and, you have to just start deciding what you want to do, for an OP to get a job. And I remember my oldest brother, his girlfriend at the time said she wanted to do law. And it's so interesting because before that, my dad is a plumber and all my brothers are plumbers. No one in my family has ever gone to university, very much like worked for other people or blue collar vibes. And it's so funny because she said she wanted to be a lawyer and she actually came from like a lower socioeconomic background. And I was like, you can just decide to do something?
Yeah.
And it was the first time I was kind of introduced to this idea that you can really recreate yourself and step into different identities. And I also watched Legally Blonde and I was like,
who hasn't? I
want to be a lawyer.
Oh, true. I feel like I also had that moment where I was like, I hope I can be that girl one day.
Yeah, I was obsessed. I still love Reese.
Yeah.
And so I told everyone I wanted to do law. And it's crazy because I told my parents, I told everyone, people started treating me differently. I started feeling different in myself. So, I went and did law and 6 years of study, worked in a law firm, became a lawyer, got my certificate, standing in court with my certificate. But by the end of it, I was like, I really don't like this, but I fed into this dream because I had stepped into this different identity of like who I wanted to be and how I wanted to feel. And I thought, it was the law job, it was the law certificate that made that. And that's when I started delving into self-development. And I was like, I really want to figure out the psychology and like what has made me believe that it's like the certificate, it's the job that makes me feel this way, because surely I can feel this way without that. And so I went on this whole journey, and manifestation was really a huge part of it, because the way I teach manifestation and the way I use it in my life is, simple terms as manifestation is thinking of something and bringing it into your reality. And the way I teach it is very much like you stepping onto a new timeline, a new identity, and stepping into that person and realizing that you actually have everything you need inside you right now to be in that whole new reality, to be in that whole new identity. Just most of us have never been taught the tools. We've never had the belief. We've never had people believe in us. We've never had examples, expanders, all those sorts of things. So I got obsessed stepping in a new identity. Who can I be? What do I want to be? And then figuring it all out. And once I did, in a short span of maybe 2 or 3 years, I stepped away from law. I started Naked Harvest, Rise and Conquer. Naked Harvest is an 8-figure company, Rise and Conquer a 7-figure. Like, I stepped into this identity where I was like, this isn't actually normal. Like, people, to get to this, they say you've got to tick off 1 million things or you've got to be 40 years into your journey. And what I was doing wasn't quote unquote normal. And so that's why I started teaching it to my community, because I was like, I'm not special. I just have used a set of, tools. I've used a formula to get here, because I've almost bypass I don't need the certificate. I don't need what everyone else thinks you need.
Yeah.
And, it's all on the quantum field, you could say. And yeah, so I just got really obsessed with it, and I saw it in my own life. I saw it on other people's lives, and I was like, everyone needs to know about this.
Yeah, you're like, let's get it out there. I find that so interesting. And for me, I'm like, so you graduated, so you continue to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But in that like journey, you were obviously very, like you said, obsessed with finding out about manifestation and how it all works. And then were you manifesting, like, did you start implementing that while you were doing law? And then were you trying to did you already decide that that wasn't for you, or just trying to find a way out until that manifestation kind of kicked in? Or how did that kind of transition?
It's funny because I wasn't actually learning about manifestation when I was doing law. I was more into like fitness, health, and I was listening to a lot of like fitness and health podcasts, but they would often have self-development people on, like Tony Robbins and like those sorts of people. But there's so many key things in my law journey. Like, for example, I got a job with this incredible law firm in Brisbane City. And like one of their requirements for the job was having like a GPA of like 6.5, which is like the highest is 7.
Wow.
And I had like a 5. So I was like I was getting B's. I still went for this job and got this job.
Oh.
I wasn't like directly manifesting right now, but I can look back and see I was actually doing it. And that's what the thing is, like, we're all manifesting 24/7. It's not 100%. Something you can turn off and on. I didn't find out about manifesting probably until like the last year of my law job.
Okay.
But I can look back and be like, oh, I was doing it this whole time. I didn't know what I was doing, which is why it was like kind of like scattered here and there. And that's why a lot of people they'll be able to manifest small things like a park or those smaller things, but they'll like, oh, I don't know how to manifest the big things. And it's because those bigger things take different beliefs, different tools. And so it wasn't until the last year of law and then after law that I actually really got into manifesting.
That's so interesting, because I feel as well we subconsciously, like what's that saying? Like what you think and what you put out there and how you see yourself and the belief within yourself is kind of like what you start to attract. So that in itself. So you obviously must have been in quite a positive mindset when you were in law and studying.
Well, it's funny, even with that job, I remember my best friend told her like sister-in-law or something, and her sister-in-law goes, of course she got the job. She's so lucky. And I remember thinking, yeah, I am so lucky. Aren't you lucky? Like I did have a state of mind where I thought I was really lucky, where I thought things would happen for me, where I thought, X, Y, and Z, which now I'm like, oh, that's a manifesting mindset. But back then I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. Yeah. But it wasn't until I like put it into a formula and understood it that I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Like there's an actual formula, to things. Yeah. And I did a law degree. I am a bit of a black and white person. So I love the fact that there is a formula and it's not just coincidence.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say like black and white. And I feel like for our listeners as well, like some people will be listening to this and being like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're manifesting your future? And like sometimes people need like the scientific facts and like need the proof. But it's nice to hear that you did you are like very black and white, but you still really tapped into that. But for me, clearly, like this has been very transformational for you. So can you share one of those major transformational moments that happened to you, whether it's recently or if it is when you were switching from law to what you're doing now? But what was like one thing that you'll never really forget that's been the most transformational?
Yeah, okay, that's such a good question. I think the biggest one would be when I left law, I actually didn't have anything to go to. So I was, doing stuff on social media. I was like working for sponsors. I was working for other companies. So I had like somewhat of an income. It's not like I also had a mortgage at that point. So I wasn't like being crazy.
Keep going,
but there was this gap here. And so that whole gap here, I remember at that point I knew about manifesting. And I was like, universe, I don't know what the business is going to look like or like the future's going to look like. Like I don't have articulation. I don't have specifics, but how I want to feel is I want to have freedom. I want to be able to do what I want when I want. I want to be able to have a family. I want to be able to go on holidays when I want. I want abundance. Again, I want to be able to buy and provide and never feel scarcity, which I felt a lot in my childhood. I want to feel secure in who I am. I want to feel secure in my relationships. And, you know, so I had this list of feelings rather more than like specifics.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people get stuck with manifesting because they're like, oh, I want a white Porsche Macan.
Yeah.
But I'm like, babe,
straight to it. Yeah.
how do you want to feel? Because
Yeah.
it's like manifesting is actually about the feeling. And so I had this whole list of like how I wanted to feel, my morning routine, how I wanted to wake up. And I just completely surrendered, which is one of the last steps of manifesting. And I was like, bring it to me. Like, this is the vibe. This is what I want. And then that whole year, I just had so much fun. I went on brand trips. I went on holidays with girlfriends. I released really random things to my audience. Like I did an ebook. I did presets. And I just had a lot of fun with my life. And then after that year, Naked Harvest was born. RNC was born. And that's my favorite part because it's like when people are like, oh, have you always wanted to like be a business owner and like do a podcast? I'm like, no. I had the feeling of how I want to feel in my life and everything I described to you, I feel now. But then all the specifics are a byproduct. The business is a byproduct. The, you know, where I live and how I live and my car, that's all a byproduct.
Okay.
But I was focused on the feeling. And again, this is where people, you know, get stuffed up with manifesting is because they're so specific. This is what I want. This is how I want it. And they're basically blocking themselves from so much abundance, so much beautifulness to come in because they think they know best and they don't. That's such a like an arrogant thing to think that you know best. And it's like, if you look at nature, if you look at abundance, if you look at this world, like you don't know best. Yeah. You don't actually know what is good for you. A lot of us grew up with so many wounds and so like we weren't treated right as children. We, you know, had really shit people in our lives. We don't actually know what we want. And so if you can be open to the feelings and be sure on that, that is like the magic of manifestation.
Wow, you've literally just blown my mind. I feel like because I've always been like, yeah, manifestation, like huge believer, but I don't think I realized what it really was. And I think that's why I was also so excited to have you on the podcast is to explain it on a deeper level. And I feel like a lot of people would feel the same maybe.
And that I hate even sometimes now I hate using the word manifestation because it has got such a bad rap of like, oh, I want to, you know, Porsche Macan. I want the house. I want blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not actually what manifestation is. Like, yes, you can have those things because I never want to be like, no, you can't have those things. It's not what it is because a lot of people then like won't listen and they're like, oh, I don't care. But like, it's so much deeper. But that is why a lot of people kind of get stuck and will never have the most incredible lives because they are. I don't like the word arrogant. Like I probably should have a better word, but
or like fixated on like one particular thing that they think is
surface
like,
level things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Arrogant. I kind of vibe with that. Like I get it.
Let's say it how it is.
Because exactly. And I think it's funny. I was talking to mum on the phone the other night and she's like, oh, what are you doing? Like, who's your guest? And I was explaining and she goes, oh, can you ask her how like, because she's like, I manifested that I was going to win $100 million on this like ticket. And she's like, I'm feeling it. I'm trying to tap into what it feels like. And she goes, and I didn't bloody win it. So what am I doing wrong? And it's really cool that you've kind of summarized that. It's like it's not sometimes the bigger picture.
So let's even just quickly get into that because, for example, I have someone very close to me who, you know those prize homes?
Yes.
They've won a prize home.
Oh, okay.
I have someone close to me who has won $1 million off the lotto.
Oh,
and so, for example, I will never be someone who does that because I have a set of beliefs that I love working for my abundance. I love owning it. I love almost being a bit in control.
Yeah.
And I know this about myself, but it's like I have a very set of like beliefs and identities. So with your mum, I guarantee you there's work around she doesn't actually feel worthy. If she got that money, it might be, oh, but I've got to give some to grandma and I've got to give some to you and it would create all these problems. And it's like, even though on the surface she probably thinks, oh, this would be amazing, her subconscious deep down would actually not be able to accept that. Otherwise, she would. Like this person who I know who, won the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know their beliefs, and I'm like, that makes complete sense.
There you go. Sorry, Mum, you've got a bit of work to do.
Sorry, Mum. Do the work.
No, but it's funny. I did say to her, I was like, something's holding you back. I was like, obviously, you've got some form of disbelief that you will get that, but I guess you've just explained it beautifully, so she'll be stoked to hear that.
Tell her to listen to the body.
Yeah. she'll probably be the first listener. She'll be like, I can't wait to hear.
Oh, love you, Mum.
We love you, Mum. Let's get a little bit more into like the relationship side of things. So this podcast, obviously, I want to really help women tap into healthy relationships.
Yes.
So understanding as well, like you've touched on, like, past wounds and how we've been raised and things like that can all really interrupt, I guess, like who we grow into. So let's really touch a little bit more on the manifestation with like relationships. But one thing, we often struggle with relationships, and it doesn't matter if it's family or friends. What are some top tips women can take to manifest the perfect relationship, even if that is even a thing?
Yeah.
Or a healthy relationship.
Healthy. Let's use
healthy.
Because there's no such thing as
wrong.
no.
Yeah.
So this is such an interesting topic, and I haven't actually spoken a lot about this, but I have so many thoughts and much, that I've gone through personally. And the biggest thing, with manifestation is you are always attracting, what you feel, what you think you're worthy of, your beliefs, etc., etc. So something I explained to someone is if there is a pattern in your life that is happening, more than once, a pattern, I guess that's the definition of pattern, it's you. And so when, I'll have people being like, I keep attracting the fuckboy. Yeah. I keep attracting someone who doesn't treat me right. And I'm like, you need to take ownership. And I know this is going to sound very harsh, but if you keep attracting someone toxic, if you keep attracting someone who doesn't treat you well, like all these sorts of things, who isn't emotionally available, it is a you problem. Yes, they are probably a shit person. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
They're still a fuckboy.
They're still a fuckboy. I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah.
But I am saying the greatest thing you can do if you want a healthy relationship is work on yourself first, so you become a healthy, secure person, and then that's what you will attract. Because so many of us, we grow up. My example is I had a really great father figure. He was, loyal to my mom. He treated my mom really well. He was a provider, very masculine. But also to the point where, he was a little bit controlling. I saw my mom kind of like put her dreams aside for him, and like just small things that, don't get me wrong, he's an amazing father, an amazing person. But there was just small things where I literally thought growing up, I don't want a partner like that. And I feel like your relationships will either show you what you want or what you don't want. And you might even subconsciously attract that or the opposite because of your wounds. So it's always about you. And so if you can start first with yourself, like stop thinking about boys. I mean men. Definitely like stop thinking about boys. Boys. Sorry. Literally, they're boys. Stop thinking about men for a second and let's just focus on you and think like, what was your dad like? What was your mum like? What were the men and women? Because it's also the women. It's not just the men. Yeah. And I think about like how you felt growing up and how you want to feel. And it's so funny because I'll see TikToks of like manifest a partner and they're like, write your list of the perfect person you want, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no,
doesn't happen.
Don't do that, because if you have not had a good example, if you have watched,
how are you going to know?
every movie ever, most of that is like very toxic love. So I actually say like, Google a secure relationship and look at what that is.
Oh, that's such good
Like, because a lot of us, we don't actually know. What is a secure relationship? What is secure attachment? I love attachment styles.
I'm obsessed. I could do a whole episode on attachment styles.
It's funny. I had to get into attachment styles because I definitely can be secure, but anytime I'm a bit toxic or I'm a bit whatever, go that way.
Yes,
I go to anxious attachment.
Same.
My partner goes to avoidant. And so
The worst combo.
I know.
It's the same with my partner and I, and we do the same thing.
Well, they attract. Opposites attract. So of course we're attracted to them.
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot of work on attachment styles because as soon as I go into my shit, I can be very anxious attachment. And so I really had to like work on my own things. And it's funny because I've been with my partner since I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been together for like 13 years.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
So how long have you been married for?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to be taking advice, it's going to be from you. I'm not married yet, but wow.
Yes.
That's-
And when it's funny because when we met each other, we're obviously very different people.
Yeah.
And I was obviously very lucky because like at his core, he's so beautiful. He's so loyal. He's always treated me amazing. He's very masculine. But as I have evolved, like I've literally changed 8 identities at this point. And so has he. And we've had to like re-find each other. We've had to sort it out. Like I've gone into anxious attachment. He's gone into avoidant. And I feel like a relationship will always mirror the wounds you need to heal. And so me going into anxious attachment and him into avoidant, like you said, that's the worst combo. So I had to self-soothe. I had to do all these things that I was like, this feels really uncomfortable. So I feel like the best thing you can do is like work on yourself first and then go out and find someone because you're going to just like save a lot of like heartache. But if you're already in a relationship, let's say, you know, you've already been with your partner and you do still want to be with them, definitely work on yourself, but also understand like the best thing that I do in my relationship is like when Tim is like really annoying me, really get into me, really effing me off.
And it happens. It's a very normal thing, I guess.
Especially if you had a child in the mix. Oh my God.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that.
It just
Don't know if
complicates
I'm ready
things.
for that.
Definitely make sure you're ready.
Okay.
And so so anytime he's like effing me off or he says something to me or he does something, I don't take it personally. And I say to myself, like, what is this mirroring to me that I either don't like about myself, that I, haven't healed? And I do a lot of self-inquiry first. And I also don't react because all of us are reacting from our wounds. We're reacting because our father abandoned us. So when he leaves the house, you feel abandoned. So you blow off the handle. And it's like that reaction usually is not to the amount that is appropriate in that scenario. Like I'm not saying he's right and you're wrong or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you cannot trust your reactions because they come from wounds. And so I've just really looked at my relationship of like, what am I learning? What do I need to move into? And it's funny because me and Tim also do this dance where and also I love like masculine and feminine, but also we sometimes do this dance where he'll be like more into his feminine and I'll be more into my masculine and then we'll swap and then we'll have to figure it out. And it's this beautiful thing because I'm constantly having to like figure myself out, figure him out, but it's really easy to just quit, to just be like, he's a fucking idiot. I'm out.
Ya, bye.
Yeah.
I've had enough.
And obviously in my relationship, there has never been, domestic violence or anything serious like that. So I'm not saying obviously you leave if you need to leave.
Yes. Yeah.
But it just has been it's been like the greatest experience for me because the amount of self-growth that I've had to go through and the amount of responsibility. I feel like in relationships, we want to blame them. It's their fault. They're toxic. They're a narcissist.
Nothing to do with me.
Nothing to do with me.
It's everything.
And babes, like I'm just saying, like if you keep attracting narcissists,
Let's go inward.
It might mean that you have qualities of a narcissist. Like, and that doesn't mean that you're a narcissist, but it's just you attract what you are.
Yes, and exactly. I was actually speaking to a good friend of mine about this the other day. Is like you mirror. I don't remember what topic it was on. I had a fight with my partner, and she was like, "You are literally mirroring your behaviors are the same. And it's like, you don't like what he's doing, but you're doing exactly what he's doing. So she's like, why don't you go inwards and focus on that? And I was like, but it's his fault. Like,
Yeah,
and you do
he's in the wrong.
battle. He's in the wrong. And I think it's really important. I do want to quickly go back to the start of this conversation as well. It's the most important thing, no matter if you are manifesting or you are in a relationship, is having the awareness of what's happening for you. I think it's the only way you're going to get, because like you said, you don't know what we really want, essentially. So like, you know how you said at the start of this, you watched a TV show, you watch a movie, and it's like, this is the perfect life. And I kid you not, up until I was 20, I was trying to find like that Cinderella story.
Yes.
And it never happened. And I was like, why isn't it happening to me? Like, what is it that, like, why there's supposed to be that prince out there and treat me with respect and not be a narcissist and not be like my father? And you have this completely different view, and it's such a, I feel, I don't love saying the word toxic, but you just go in this cycle of like, I'm never going to find my prince. But that, I really wanted to touch on that, because I feel like so many women are like, you're like what society says as well. Like, what is a healthy relationship is like, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, like that's all normal, essentially. But I feel like it's so important to like have a different view and a different perspective on it, because it's different for everyone. But then going back into, having the awareness of when you are going into a relationship, like, how do you show up? Like, what do you really need and what do you really want? So I think like what you shared is like some valid points there that I think everyone needs to hear. And then touching on trauma as well. So look, I'm not asking for free advice, but I have had my own challenging relationship with my father. And it has been a whirlwind of ups and downs. And I guess like it was a cycle that just keep repeating. So it was like there'd be an argument and we wouldn't talk for 5 years, and then I'd miss him, and then I'd crave that like love and affection. I'd go back to him, and then you'd wait another 2 years and something would go wrong. So it was just this toxic, unhealthy relationship. And then I feel like every partner that I attract was exactly like my dad. And that's also why I am able to do the work that I do and create the business that I have, because of the experiences and what I've been through. And if I had known what I did like 10 years ago, I would be a completely different person. But I guess in saying that, what advice can you tell our listeners about manifesting? Like, can you heal trauma through manifesting, essentially?
Well, I think for manifesting, like the first thing, like if we very quickly go through the formula of manifesting,
Yes,
like
please.
the first thing is like you need to get clear on the vision, the feeling. And so like I said, I wouldn't write a whole bunch of like random things from who you are currently. I would literally Google like the psychologists, what is a secure relationship? Because most of us have never experienced it. We've never had it exemplified to us. And so I would literally Google that and like have a look at like, okay, so two secure attached people, how do they act and how do they treat each other? Write that down, get familiar with that. Use that as the clarity. Don't use your own experience. Unless you do want a fucking spicy, toxic love. Look, I am really into like fantasy smart novels. And so there is a toxic side of me who's like, I want a controlling man. Like I want.
Isn't that funny? I feel like I sometimes have that too. I'm like, take control. Like,
yeah, like it's a complete shadow. It's like, we love to play out. We all have those sides of ourselves.
100%. Yeah.
But for example, like a lot of the books I read, I think like if a man actually said or treated me like that, I would be so scared and like turned off. I'd be like, absolutely not. Do you know who I am? Like
you cannot treat me like
exactly,
that.
But I love it in a book. So look, that's why I'm saying Google it from like a very psychologist, clinical.
Definitely.
Because we don't have great examples. And all of us women, we're a little bit toxic. We love drama. We love spice.
Very true.
We love, danger, masculine,
well, it's
forearms.
Like exciting. Give me a good forearm. It's like exciting, right? Like you're like, oh, and you get that feeling in your stomach and you get a bit of adrenaline, and then it's like, okay, that's probably enough now. Like you get to a certain
especially
point.
if that's what you grew up with, like that's what you'll look for. So
exactly.
that's why I'm saying get clear. but don't use your examples unless, look, you come from a really great background.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the second thing is you need to figure out your limiting beliefs of why you think you can't have that secure, healthy relationship.
Okay.
So go through the list and be like, if this person was to rock up right now, what would be in me that thinks I can't have them or I'm not good for the relationship? Another great thing is like think of the secure men, and look, you can write a couple of things that you want, like tall, dark features, etc. If you're into it. It
I feel
helps.
like when I was manifesting my partner, that's what I did. I was like, curly hair, blue eyes. Like I got to the real and to be honest, like it's exactly what he looks like. And I was like dark skin, like not too tall, not too short, like to the so
It works. And so then I would figure out, and this is a step not a lot of people do in manifesting. But okay, so that secure, gorgeous man who you are writing, or woman, sorry, I don't know who listens to this podcast. I always just talk to women, but men, whatever, man or woman. And then write the person who has a relationship with that person. Do you know what I mean? So so you've written the dream man, bit secure, healthy, and then on the other side or below, write who is that person with.
Wow, so you're turning it back on you essentially.
Yeah, so like for example, a man who's like very secure in his looks, is he like gonna want to be with someone who's like really insecure about their looks?
Oh my gosh, you've literally blown my mind. Like it can be quite basic, but I'm so thinking like I've got to manifest him. Like he has to be the perfect partner for me. But you're so right. If you're not confident with how you look, why are you attracting?
Yeah, like if you have like big forearms, tall, dark, and you're like has to be like 6.5, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like you don't feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to keep that man? However, and not in the way of like he'll only look at you if you're a certain look, but it's energy. Like I personally cannot stand insecure people because I'm like, I don't have to keep telling you you're a good person. You are.
And you should know that.
Yeah. Like, for example, if my partner was insecure and he like wanted to check my phone, or if he like, who's at the podcast? Who's going to be there? Are there any guys there? I would be like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm going out to do my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and my
definitely.
husband is so secure, and so it really works.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be with someone like that. So they could never manifest me because I wouldn't even give them the time of day. Wow. So that's why it's like, do your list of your perfect person, but be like, who's that person going to tolerate? Who are they going to be with? Who are they going to love? Because I guarantee you that's where you figure out what you need to heal. Wow. So if it is they're very secure and they're good looking, you need to be secure in your looks and how you feel about yourself. If they, communicate really well and they're emotionally intelligent, you need to communicate really well and be emotionally intelligent. If they are, they regulate their emotions and they're patient and kind, do you meditate? Do you regulate your emotions, or do you blow off the handle and super reactive? Someone says one thing.
And you're like, yeah. It's almost like practicing what you preach, right? So like if you're saying that this is what you want, then you have to show up and do that stuff. Is that kind of?
Well, it's in manifesting is like whatever you want to attract, you have to be. So it's like you cannot have this long list of this man who's like this most perfect God being, and then you have all these wounds and insecurities and you're like, no, but he's going to fix me. He's going to complete me. No, you have to be a whole person who, and this is another thing no one talks about, you become the greatest manifester when you are truly obsessed with yourself. And not in a, like, I know that's a lot of people might be scared of that, and like not in a conceiting sort of way. But for example, I'm obsessed with myself in the way of I know I am an excellent person. I am a good person. I am kind-hearted. I am patient. I am emotionally intelligent. I am emotionally regulated. I, am health conscious and blah, blah, blah of all the things that are important to me. And a lot of people, you know, are magnetized by me because of those things. But it doesn't come from me wanting to attract people, me wanting to influence people. It comes from me doing it for myself. I never used to be emotionally intelligent. I never used to be emotionally regulated. I was super reactive. Like so reactive. I came from very wounds. I was very, you know, I previously was very insecure and all these things that I've had to go on a journey with. But like now I can truly say I'm obsessed with myself because I have created myself. But with so much intention and so much like love. And if, for example, it triggers you that I say I'm obsessed with myself,
I love it.
it's just because you're not obsessed with yourself.
Obsessed with yourself.
And you want to be. And everyone wants to be. Everyone wants to love themselves. Everyone wants to be like, wow, no, I'm an amazing person. Like at the end, you know, we're born just ourselves. Look, unless you're in twin.
Yeah.
And we die just ourselves. And so it's like you are your greatest project. And yes, it's important to, you know, have the relationships and have the people, but it all starts with you. And so that's why I'm just so big on like, I use manifestation work to like work on myself. And then the things that I attract are just a byproduct. But I'm not looking to attract the things, they come to me.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I'm just sitting there going like fangirling you. I just think that's so beautiful and so refreshing. And I think people
quickly, because I saw this on TikTok and it just got
bloody
me.
TikTok, honestly.
I love TikTok so much.
I'm obsessed, but I'm like, I get nervous to use it anyway because I'm like, how do I do all of these new things?
Oh, I hate like posting on TikTok. I love being a user on TikTok.
Yes, yeah.
I saw that this guy, he goes, if someone says, go fuck yourself, would you want to? And I was like, wait a second, where's this going? And then he goes on this whole spiel and he says, if you wouldn't want to go fuck yourself,
wow,
you need to become fuckable for yourself. Like, for example, the person you are, how you treat people, how you look, how you feel about yourself, you need to get to the point of like, yeah, I'd fuck myself.
Oh my gosh, I love
because
that.
it's like, if you wouldn't even fuck yourself, why would you expect other people to? And I know that's very vulgar and look, I would never use that language, but it really did something to me when I was like, yeah, like you have all these people walking around who literally don't like themselves, wanting relationships, wanting to attract the dream job, wanting all these things, and they don't even like themselves.
Wow. Honestly, that I feel like it's going to be life-changing for everyone because it's like also
Such
really
a random
nice
thing to bring up.
No, but I'm so here for it. It's also one of those things where it's kind of like, well, you know, like, are you eating healthy? Are you going to the gym? Are you looking after yourself? Because most likely, like, I don't know, like, this is going to sound quite critical, but just my opinion, like if someone wasn't doing that, I probably wouldn't be with them because they're not looking after themselves. And that's just how I feel. And it might sound very shallow, but health to me is like number one thing in a partner. It's like, you know, I want you here for a long time. So look after yourself.
No, I think that's very appropriate. I'm the exact same with my partner. And it's like, I'm not like, he needs to have washboard abs, even though my partner actually does. But like,
it's just like a bonus.
That's a bonus. But it's like, he needs to look after his health. He needs to, even if you think about it, like attractiveness, it's not so much, you know, a trend, the big butt, the big boobs. It's, I'm like, you're attracted to like white teeth. Yeah. Because white teeth means healthy. You know, if you, health. You know, strong hair, health, clear eyes, health. Like it's not actually about the physical makeup, all those things. It's about health, and our body really does, like how it's feeling internally shows on the external. And so subconsciously we all know that, and so that's what people kind of will look for. And so it's not about being like the most gorgeous, big lips, big boobs person. It's just about being health conscious for you. And that's going to look different for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, touching on that subject is the importance of pouring back into yourself to be able to, like, if anything that we take away from what you've just said is it comes back to you. So before you start manifesting the person that you want in your life, I mean, which is more than, you know, you can have that, but where are you at in life? And really taking it inwards and starting, you know, whether it's journaling or meditating or, you know, getting to the gym and starting to put yourself first. And I think like you hear so many times, like when you stop thinking about being in a relationship and you focus the energy back onto yourself. I've had so many friends be like, oh, you know, I'm just like not thinking about meeting a guy. And then all of a sudden they're in a relationship 2 weeks later, or they meet the perfect person. Is because, and it doesn't even have to be a long period of time. Just come back to you.
Yeah. And I think also just picking back off that is also a lot of the time we don't have awareness of our wounds, of what we need to heal. And so also when you get into relationships, never look at it as like, this has to be my husband. This has to be like my long-term partner. Like, be okay with getting into relationships and almost like looking at it as an experiment for that, because that person will always mirror what you need to heal. So be in the relationship, be like, fuck, I am really getting so triggered by these specific things. Get internal, heal that. And so what will happen when you heal that person, if that's the only thing that they were there to do for you, you usually won't be attracted to them anymore. Like once you like step onto the next level and they're still down here, you can't meet in the quantum field.
Your
like the vibrations
shift.
are different. And so never be scared of relationships too, because you will either like outgrow them or you will heal the wound and then still be like, oh my God, they're perfect. And it's like, that's the biggest thing with me and Tim. A lot of people are like, oh, like how have you stayed together so long? And I'm like, honestly, it's just very lucky that anytime I've healed, not lucky, but it's like anytime I've healed a wound or up leveled, he has too. And so I've still been attracted to him. I've still been in the relationship. Whereas I think you need to be okay with letting that relationship go, of like once you heal it, and maybe it's like your anxious attachment, they're avoidant, you heal it, you become more secure attached, and they're still avoidant, and you're just like, no. This isn't the person I want to be with.
You start to feel it. Like
and you're just like, I'm not entertaining, especially if they don't heal, because you're also mirroring to them what they need to heal. And if they're not healing, if they're not doing it, you need to be okay with being like, on to the next.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say this, because recently my partner and I went through, I would say, one of those shifts. It's kind of like, I mentioned it before, something was being mirrored to me that was what I needed to work on. And we actually had a month apart where we were still together, but we just needed to go our separate ways. And we go to couples therapy all the time. We absolutely love it. And we kind of got to the point where we're like, these are the things that we want to go work on and see how we feel when we come back. And like you said, like whether, you know, we're lucky or whatnot, we came back and I fell in love with him 10 times over. I was like, fuck. And I almost feel like a different person, because I went inwards and I could see where I was showing up wasn't serving us. And I was like, I love you more than anything. And if it's anything that I do, is I owe this to us because we deserve it. So we went away, had our time apart. I came back to him, and like I said, I fell completely in love with him again, and I feel like we've leveled up to that next level of our relationship together. And like you said,
it's beautiful.
It's, you know, you either do that and the other person hasn't, and then looking at it as a blessing and being like, this has served a purpose, because
it's never a waste.
Never a waste.
And never stay with someone just because it's been like 2, 5, 10 years, because it's never a waste. You're allowed to learn and grow, and if they're not, it's okay. It's okay to leave. And I love that so much for, you know, sharing that with us. I honestly went through a similar thing last year with Tim, where again, like a crumbling of the relationship, of certain things we just couldn't take with us anymore. And having, we didn't separate because we have a child together.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
I wish we could.
I was like, bye.
I would love a month to myself.
It was incredible.
But look. Incredible. We have a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So we didn't separate, but we had some time. We spoke a lot of things, and again, it's the deciding, it's choosing each other. No, I do want this and I do want to show up and I will change these things and I will, you know, be more of blah, blah, blah and you blah, blah, blah. And I think that is so beautiful. And I think I feel like growing up, I always saw like relationships being this like you find someone, it's true love and then that's it.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly
it's
how I
just
vote.
not the truth. And like I saw in my mum and dad's relationship, they're severely anxiously attached, both of them.
Bless.
Oh my God. They like live in each other's pockets still to this day. And
Yeah.
they've been together since they were 16. But
Oh,
like
wow. So they also like very similar.
very
Yeah,
similar. And
wow.
all three of my brothers are the exact same with their girlfriends.
Hey, see, like you do what you see.
You and I, yeah. And so
Wow.
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
But like I see a lot of their ways and it's very much they have like the conditioning of like, no, we've got to be fine all the time. And even like my dad, he cannot stand conflict. He cannot stand like emotion.
Yeah.
And so like,
yeah, get it.
I can see their relationship. It's almost like maybe not ever progress to more levels because it's like, no, well, it's got to stay here and it's got to look a certain way and feel a certain way.
Wow.
But be okay with breaking that down. Be okay with like, separating, with taking time, with like it not looking perfect because if it does break down and rebuild, you are building something a lot more deeper, a lot more vulnerable, a lot more like just new depths, which I feel like as humans that's truly what we crave. And so I think like normalizing that is something we need to do because we all grew up with the Cinderella story and it's just not real.
Bullshit. No,
It is.
But yeah, there's so much beauty in what you just said and there's so much beauty in having space. And I think, like I say, society is like what, you know, bless mum and dad, but, you know, we've got to stay at this level and we're going to maintain it and that's it. And I feel like that's what society does preach and that's how I see it. And, you know, I had a lot of guilt about, like, to be honest, I haven't shared any of what I just did on this podcast with anyone. I don't even think my close friends really know apart from one, but because I feel like it's very relatable and I feel comfortable sharing. So I did hold, like, shame against it. It was like, you know, well, I don't really want to tell everyone. I've just had a
What are they going to think? What is it going to look
Yeah.
like? They're going to think we're not in love. They're going to think blah, blah, blah. Completely.
But if anything, I feel more confident in saying it now because it's the best thing that happened to us. And I see I can spend the rest of my life with this person because I know that we knew we needed to take the right steps to maintain this beautiful thing that we have. And we just needed to fucking breathe. And that's okay. And there's no, you know, shame in that. I think that's really beautiful, you sharing that side, and then for me being able to share that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing with us too. I think, sorry, just one more point on that is I think also the best thing that you can do is like take expectation off anything in your life. Like if you, like I even said with what I created with Naked Harvest and Rise and Conquer after my law job is I had no expectation. I had no like, this is how things need to go. And it turned out better than you could have imagined. It looked better than I could have imagined. And I truly believe in like every part of, you know, your life, if you're taking off expectation and if you're taking off, it needs to be this way and look this way and et cetera, you truly do create like something that is so incredible. And like, for example, with your relationship is I guarantee you now have such like a deeper relationship
100%.
and a lot of people will continue to entertain and be in an average relationship because they're scared, the scarcity mindset, because there's fear, because they don't know what's going to happen, the unknown, because like that's what their parents did, et cetera, and they will stay in that their entire life and possibly be miserable opposed from like stepping outside the box, doing something different. And they could have this relationship that is like incredible, that is so vulnerable. Like this person meets them on levels that you're like, I never expected to feel seen and heard and understood in this way. And that's all possible for everyone. But what you continue to entertain will continue. So if you're in an average relationship, and you keep entertaining it, like, yeah, that's going to be your life.
It's going to be it.
The exact same with business, the exact same with like how you feel about yourself, like everything. So it's really up to you. And the hardest part is like if it's just okay, like it's not bad, a lot of people like they won't want to get uncomfortable, but you have to get really, really, serious with yourself and be like, if this is the relationship I'm going to have for the rest of my life, like, am I okay? And even thinking about, I know this is probably a bit dramatic, but it's like you have one life. You have one. I believe in like reincarnations and souls and all those sorts of things,
Right
which
there with you.
whole other podcast. But
Literally.
you have this one life in this body with this face and this brain and everything. And it's like, are you really going to just lead an average life because you're scared of the unknown? And so many people will, which is so sad.
It is sad. And I actually think about it quite often with like, I think as well with the work that I do is like I want to be able to impact as many people as I can because like what you said, so many people stay there. And I think people are so afraid of the unknown and what's on the other side. But what's that saying like, what's on the other side of fear? What do you know that saying?
Yeah, like outside your comfort zone is like always the good part. Or
the best thing is on the other side of fear, essentially. So like it might be so uncomfortable. Like the week leading or 2 weeks leading up to my partner and I having space wasn't great. It was uncomfortable. There was a lot of emotion. There was uncertainty. There was crying. There was confusion. But I wouldn't be where I am now with him if I didn't go through that. So it's kind of like shifting your perspective as well when you're in it is like, hold on, this is heavy, this is hard, but if I don't go forward with this and if I don't address it, like it's just either going to stay the same and I'm going to be miserable for, the rest of my life if you're that resilient in staying in something like that.
And I think also with emotions, something I like to think about is like if you're looking at a scale of emotions is the duality, the polarity, of it is like you cannot feel happiness. You can only feel happiness to the extent that you have felt sadness. Wow. You can like the that's just like the law of polarity. Yeah. So for example, if you're in this like mediocre relationship and it's like, it's not bad, but it's okay. You're constantly in the middle and you're feeling like, no one can see my hands, but like this small range of emotions that's actually never going to satisfy you. And what you don't realize is sometimes you have to go to the depths of sadness and pain and vulnerability to feel the heightened happiness, contentment, and those feelings. And so never be afraid of feeling that extent of the scale because, again, the law of polarity is if you experience that, you have to experience the opposite side. Yeah. So know that any time that you're like in that rut, in that like downward spiral, like the rock bottom vibes, it's only upwards. And that's why you find a lot of like huge celebrities, they're like you listen to their childhood and you're like, good God.
Sorry, what?
Like,
come again?
Yeah. And a lot of people who have experienced so much pain and sadness create these like incredible lives, but that's why. And so even I had this girlfriend, she's not with him anymore, but I remember that she was with this partner for 4 years and she told me, we've never had a fight. And I was like, like, what do you mean?
It's different. Yeah.
And we figured out like they're both avoidance. Okay. So it's like
fair, makes sense.
They just always avoided conflict.
Yeah.
But they were both so neutral, so in the middle. They had never experienced a fight. And look, me and my husband are like very passionate. And it's like it can get very reactive, very fiery. But it's also like if you think about how passionate we are negatively. Yeah. Positively, it's the same vibe. It's exactly in the bedroom, it's the same vibe. Like,
love it.
It's that's like, and that's what attracts me so much to him. It's because it's this fire, it's this polarity, it's like opposites attract vibes. And so she was telling me, and I thought in my head, oh my God, what a sad relationship. But also she
will
will never experience so many things that she needs to in this relationship because she's like never getting out of this small range. And the thing is, you know, they end up breaking up
are they together?
No, end up breaking up very mutual, very kind of like on good terms, like best friend vibes. And then she's with this new partner and he
completely different,
very fiery, very extreme, and she's like, holy shit, it's like a fucking roller coaster. But she's never been happier because and it's not about like this person isn't like volatile.
No,
you know, he's a great person, but she's just finally experiencing
more too.
the different emotions and the different scales, and she's like, oh no, this is normal. This is good. It feels like she never feels like she's been so close to someone because she is experiencing the depths of the emotions and like, you know, on the scale. And so that's why I would just, you know, if any area of your life, like you're in that like neutral, very small range of emotions, it's not that you need to go blow up your life, but I just would be conscious of like, okay, this, and that's even why you hear a lot of people like, even me with my law of like doing a whole law degree and like getting my law certificate and then quitting. But it's like, that's like, again, going to the depths, going to the rock bottom, and then look what I've created. So it's like, if you're in a job you hate, you're already experiencing some of like the negative emotions. Definitely. What you don't realize is like the law of polarity is it has to go the opposite way. So just like, don't be scared of it going to shit. Don't be scared of rock bottom. Don't be scared of the relationship crumbling because it always has to go the opposite way.
There's so much beauty in that. And thank you so much for sharing that example as well, because I feel like that really helps people understand when they hear other stories. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. To kind of like wrap it up essentially. So we've learned how to manifest and how to, I guess, turn back inwards to ourselves and put ourselves first to attract the person that we deserve. How do we, I guess, maintain that in a way? So like, do we need to keep manifesting, or do we just continue to keep working on ourselves, or is there anything else that you want to add to that before we wrap up? Or
well, I guess that's, you know, really me and my husband's example of I have very much stepped into like 8 identities.
Yeah, you said that.
And so I have just been very conscious of like communicating to Tim of like, you know, this is what's happening with me. This is who I'm stepping into. This is who I want to be. And I never push on your partner. Never try and change your partner because you actually can't.
Yeah.
You actually can't. They need to want to change. But in my relationship, I've always led by example. So, for example, when I wanted to have deeper conversations with him in a deeper relationship, I went and got deeper with myself. And I showed him, like I led in that, because also men are creatures of comfort and they will just stay the same.
They really are.
So if you want something different, you go and give that to yourself. You go and show him or her what it feels like. And also men specifically, they are so attracted to a woman who is like obsessed with herself, who is like on a level of like feeling herself. Like even when I am like doing well in my career, going to the gym, doing my self-care, like Tim is obsessed with me because I'm obsessed with myself.
Yeah, like, oh, I look good. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, you do.
I know.
Like,
and they're attracted to you. And it's like, that's what attraction is. And so I just, anytime I want to up level in the relationship or change something in the relationship, I'm never like, we never have deep conversations. You're so surface level, blah, 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 blah. I go and do that for myself. And like, you have to also give them time. So it's like, again, Tim, my husband is like he's like a bit more chill, a bit more like, you know, slower in his evolution. And so I also give him a lot of time. I'm never like, you need to do this by this time. Again, I'm on my own journey. And I think the biggest part of a long-term relationship is accepting each other at different identities and accepting each other at different levels. And again, not having that expectation of that person. And anytime you're like, well, I need this or that in the relationship, learning you actually give it to yourself. And if the relationship is supposed to survive, supposed to continue, they will up level. They will meet you. They will, you know, I call it kind of like keep your side of the street clean and they will follow. But don't worry about them. Don't focus on them, because what you focus on expands. So if you're constantly focusing on like, they're so not emotionally intelligent, they're so surface level, blah, 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 they never look after themselves and whatnot, honestly, it gets bigger. Like what you focus on expands. So take the focus off them, put it on you. What do you need? What do you like doing? What new skill can you learn? What can you do for yourself? And even, for example, this is a bit more surface level, but like, let's say you want your partner to start like buying you flowers or like treating you a certain way, like, I don't know, whatever you want. Like, we're women, we love it.
Yeah, we always love
we want gifts. We want we want to be cherished.
I know, we say we don't want those things, but we want them.
And so like in that example, like men don't respond to like you whinging at them. They just see it as criticism and they just like honestly block you out.
Yeah, like get away.
Yeah, like I can't.
I
can't deal with this like whingy little person down there.
Yeah.
So anytime I want something from Tim, I give it to myself. So like I'll start buying flowers for myself and I'll start like putting them in, being like, oh, I love fresh flowers in the new house. I blah, blah, blah. And no joke, it works every time. It might be a month later. It might be 2.
It still happens.
He will start buying them for me because like your partner really does want to cherish you. And especially if you're in the femme and masc energy, which again, whole other podcast, but it's like as the feminine, like the feminine is being, it is like the life force, it is the energy, and the masculine is supporting and providing. And so even in me and Tim's relationship where he's a stay-at-home dad and I'm, the breadwinner, I work, I am still very in my feminine where he still provides for me. It's just in a different way. And it's stuff like that. Like when I'm starting to feel like, oh, I just want him to like do stuff for me. I will do it for myself. I will not even hint, but I'll just do it for myself and like be effortless about it. And he always cottons on and he always starts providing that for me. Like, for example, I was like obsessed with these certain chocolates the other day. And I kept buying them for myself. They're actually these chocolates.
I was going to say, I bet you that, what are they? Loco Love. Loco Love. There you go.
Obsessed. Anyone,
literally.
if you want to buy them from me, you can. And
there you go. Perfect.
And so I would like always buy myself these chocolates. And no joke, it was probably 6 months or a long time. And he's like, where do you get them from? Like, blah, blah, blah.
Bless him.
And then like he will randomly buy me these chocolates.
Oh.
And so again,
Good job, Tim.
it's a long-term game, but I just truly believe like with a long-term partner, what you think you need and want, give it to yourself and they will either follow, or if they don't and you have this partner that you're like, they really don't provide, they really don't give me anything, they really don't like up level, I think that's your answer.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
100%. That is so beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. We do have some questions. I think I mentioned at the start that I popped out to Instagram. You actually have, I feel like, answered a few of them. What have we got? We actually had someone, that's so funny. Someone said, what's it like having a stay-at-home dad, full-time working mum dynamic, which you kind of just touched on. I don't know if there's anything more that you want to add to that.
Well, I guess with that, again, if you're in that dynamic, I would start learning a lot about femme and masculine energy. And I'm not talking about female and male energy. I'm talking about the feminine, the yin and yang, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Definitely.
And so when I'm at work, I am in my masculine energy, and then I'm very intentional about switching it when I come home. And just like a little example is like, I work all day, I'm telling people what to do, et cetera, et cetera. And then when I get home, it took a while to get there, but Tim just like has the house sorted. Like that is his realm. Yeah. Well, it's like he's a stay-at-home, like that's,
So that's your
that's how it is.
role.
We both have, and I feel like it works really well when you're both clear. Like this is my role, this is your role. And so I get home, he cooks dinner, the house is always like, somewhat clean and tidy. I'm not a clean freak. He is.
Okay.
So it's like huge benefit to me because I honestly don't care.
Well.
And he's always like, he's got it sorted.
Yeah.
And So as soon as I get home, I can be in my feminine. I can look after Ivy.
beautiful.
We go and have a shower together. We play together. He always has dinner ready. And I'm very, and this took a little bit. Previously, like I'd come home and I'd try to help him with dinner. I'd try and like take out the bins. I'd try and do things because I was in my masculine energy.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very intentional about like basically not doing anything and allowing him to do it. And this is quite hard for women in their masculine energy because they think, well, I'm going to do it better. Like I'll just do it. Like he'll never do it. And that's even, for example, like let's say you have this husband or like boyfriend or whatever, and they never take out the trash. It's like, again, like telling them, hey, I just would love if you could take out the bins. Like it just feels like you've really got my back, blah, blah, blah. And then if they don't, you have to be okay with just leaving it.
Yeah.
And just allowing it. And just like, it's so funny because in our relationship, I just like things will be a fucking shit show, you know, and whatnot. And I just allow it because I'm like, no, I'm in my feminine energy.
Yeah.
And you have to be very intentional with like your roles and how you be. And so I feel like me learning about feminine, masculine energy and then communicating with Tim, and that really helped us.
Yeah.
And also communicating to him, you know, oh, babe, I just appreciate you so much when you have dinner ready for me.
Yeah.
And like really instilling the when he provides for you, when he does something you like, to articulate and assert that to him.
Definitely.
Rather than always telling them what they've done wrong, what they can do better. Because men, they don't respond to that.
No.
They respond to you being in your feminine, being like, oh, you're so good at dinner. Like you're, and then
that's what they
so
wanna
then
hear.
he thinks, oh my God, I'm always going to have dinner ready because she praises
she's
me. They're kind of
appreciated.
like dogs. Like I say that in a very nice way.
Yes, but it's
true.
Yeah.
And so I would just say if you're in a dynamic where you're like, I want things to shift and change, it's like a slow thing, but it's like praise them when they're doing what they like. And then when they're doing something you don't like, don't react. Withdraw your energy. Men are so attracted to feminine energy that anytime Tim is like doing something I don't like, I don't react, I don't yell, I don't like threaten to leave, I don't do anything like that. I withdraw my energy from him and he knows straight away. And
he's like, okay.
Yeah, and he will change himself because like men love that feminine energy. They love your energy. And so of course, you've got to be in your feminine energy first. And then doing things in a different way and realizing that like men aren't females. And so you do have to treat them differently to how you would do things differently and be okay with that.
So true. Wow. Well said. I feel like there's been so much value in this.
I could talk for hours, honestly.
I love it. I could literally talk to you for hours. I wish this could go for longer. We won't have time to get to the other questions. But
sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. I honestly feel like you've already touched on most of those questions. But I guess in just summarizing everything that we've just spoken about, I think the biggest takeaways for our listeners is when you are manifesting your dream partner, come back to you. And I think that's a big standout for what you were saying is like, how are you showing up? Are you looking after yourself? Do you go to the gym? Do you do the things that this person is? So I think that's a huge takeaway because I feel like I was always like, no, I have to manifest that person rather than coming back to myself. But there's so many amazing things that we can touch on. Like we could keep talking for hours. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you for taking the time and sharing your story and all your knowledge. It's amazing and more people need to hear it. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It's honestly been so fun.
It has been so fun. And I was going to say people as well, like if you haven't heard the Rise and Conquer podcast, go and listen to it. It's on Spotify and Apple Play.
Everything.
All of the things. And then Naked Harvest supplements. I am obsessed with the collagen powder. So go get your hands on that. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.